Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, in a previous episode, we were working on building a custom taper gauge, which is this little piece here. It looks like an angle. And end goal here is to end up with a gauge that has a very precise angle on it. In this case, really more of a taper. And that taper is going to be 1 inch per foot, and we're going to be grinding that in. In my previous video, we took a piece of A2 tool steel, we cut it in length, we rough milled in the angle on here, and we did a heat treatment on it to get it nice and hard and in a hardened state. This episode, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on the surface grinder to get this ground in and get it exactly at that precise angle and to get it looking good all the way around. We're going to be grinding pretty much all the sides on this and getting everything nice and square and just looking good. So anyway, over to the surface grinder we go. So we're going to start by magging everything down. I got my part. I need to dress my wheel. I got my diamond back here in the back. Let's see, pull this on up front. Raise that wheel up just a little bit, edge it. I'm firing up this machine. It doesn't have ball bearings. It has just a bronze spindle in there, so I always put some oil, fresh oil in there, make sure it's dripping oil. I turn it by hand a few times, and then I'll just kind of bump that spindle. I'm just trying to make sure I get that spindle oiled. Let it go in there. The instructions on this says to bump that spindle about 4 or 5 times and then turn it on. And as long as that oil's dripping in there, it stays lubricated and all's good. One more time, we'll let it run. All right, we should be good to go now. Come in here on a cluster diamond, so there's multiple diamond points. I just lower it down. I got my hand over here. I can feel when I start getting a little bit of grit coming off of that wheel. That's when right there I'm touching the wheel. And I'm going to start. I'm going to do a 3/1000 down feed. 1, 2, 3. We'll come back across. Sounds like it's cutting all the way across. 1 2/1000 down feed, back across, and then a 1/1000 down feed. You want to do this fairly rapidly when you're doing your crosses there. I'm going to move this block out of the way, release my magnet. I'll turn the mag back on now. When I get close, I'm going to go over to my fine adjust wheel, and I'm going to continue dropping it down until I just see a spark. Right there. Now, I'm not engaged yet. I want to adjust my stroke here. I'm going to shorten it up a little bit. I like that. Turn some mist on here, and we will come across there on that first pass. It looks like we're not really touching much. It's probably going to touch a little bit more as we come out. Yeah, I'm seeing a few sparks now. Hitting those stamps where it raised up a little bit of an edge. And it looks like it is just barely touching in a couple places on there. This first pass, since I stamped this side, I just want it to clean up. I don't want to take very much off of it at all. And then we'll flip it over and probably take a little bit more off the other side. All right, we're off the part. I'm going to drop it down 1 thou, and we'll come back across. And it looks like it's taking a nice cut now. All right, I think I'm just going to kind of go back across it a couple of times, not moving down. I'm just hand feeding this rather rapidly across. I'm going to live with that staining up there. I don't want to take too much off the side, because if I do, I'm going to cut my stamping out in there. I can read it real nice right now, but I have not moved the wheel down at all. It's just kind of sparking out. You can see it's still cutting. So we're going to do this a couple of passes until we more or less see our sparks completely stop. All right, I'm going to call that good. So that looks good. This surface on this side is not critical by any means. It's just really just to make it look good. I'm a little bit upset I didn't get this up here. Looks like we got a little bit of oxidation and we didn't quite clean that up. But I'm afraid that if I take much more off of my thickness, I'm going to grind my letters out. So I'm just going to live with it. This face is not the working face, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to be flipping it over now, and we will come across this other side. Should be the exact same height we were just on. I'm just going to go across it rather rapidly here. You can see it's just barely touching in a few high spots. We'll come down about a thou and come across here. One thing I'm also trying to do by reducing this thickness is the material that I'm going to be cutting is 3/8 inch thick. This tool steel was 3/8 inch thick, but I really want this piece to be just a little bit thinner than the metal that I'm going to be machining, because when I put this in the vise, this is going to be up underneath the part, and I don't want it to the vise to grip on this and not grip on my part. I'd rather for there to be real good strength gripping the part. This piece here, once it's in the vise, it can actually come out from underneath it. So to do that, I want it to be a little bit thinner than the part I'm going to be machining. And because of that, I'm probably going to take several thou off of this side, even though it really doesn't need it. I'm going to drop it down. Come back across it. I'm going to feed it down a half a thou, come back across, and we'll spark it out. All right, I think we're good. Now let's get ready to grind some of these other surfaces on here. So next I need to get my angle set where I can actually grind that straight across at the proper angle, or taper in this case. And to do that, I'm using my compound sine plate. Now, technically, I only need a sine plate. I don't need one a compound. A compound will tilt in this direction as well as tilt in the direction 90 degrees to it. I'm only needing to go one way, but this one is a magnetic sine plate, so when I crank this handle down, it actually will mag that down. So we'll you use the magnetic chuck to suck the sine plate down, and then we use this to suck down our work, and we get our job done. Now, to calculate our taper, on a sine plate, usually you figure out your angle, and you use a sine function to calculate what size stack you need to put up underneath this end to get the proper angle using gauge blocks. I've done that, but instead of going with the angle method, it's a little bit easier with a taper. So we know that the taper we're after is 1 inch in a foot, or 12 inches. So I take 1 inch, divide by 12. That's the taper per inch. I know my distance between the two rolls on this one is 10 inches, so I multiply that times 10, and I come up with a stack size of 0.8333. And I can only go out to the 10,000th of an inch, so we'll just ignore the other numbers. I usually round them up or down depending on what we're after, so we're just going to go at 0.8333. Now, on this compound sine plate, I need to add 100 thousandths to that because of where my block sits. So I need a 0.9333 stack. The top gauge pin here is 1.003. The other one up underneath there is 0.133, which leaves 700 thousandths. So you add all this together, I get that 0.9333 measurement. So we will take this and pick our sine plate up. You can see the roll here that engages up on the bottom. We put our stack up underneath that roll. And let's see, let it come down and sit. Now I have raised that end up exactly the amount we need for the taper. And when we put this on here, now I have a flat surface on here parallel to the machine that I can grind. And I'll keep that angle or taper exactly where we need for it to be. I am going to start by actually grinding the bottom, and then we'll flip it over and grind the taper side. I need to grind both sides, so we'll start with the bottom. So I'll put this on here. I want this to be kind of up near the top of the plate so that I don't crash my wheel into the top of my sine plate. We'll turn the mag on, and that is nice and tight. I do need to dress my wheel, so I got my diamond back here in the back, and we'll start by dressing the wheel. I am using a single point diamond instead of a cluster diamond here, just because that's what I got for that particular holder. Making lighter and lighter cuts. All right, that wheel should be ground. I'm gonna take this out of the way, turn my magnet back on, and come over here and touch off on that and get it ground in. Just kind of fishing around here, trying a little heavier on that side, that's fine. And make sure my stops are going to be good. I need to move them around a little bit. That ought to be good. Let's cut across there and see what we got to start with. Remember, I just milled that roughly, so I don't expect this angle to be exactly on. It looks like it's actually a lot closer than I thought I would have done it by just drawing a line across there and milling to the line. Proves that sometimes the eyeball is more accurate than one gives it credit for. But we're still going to go ahead and get this whole bottom cleaned up with a nice flat surface, and then we'll flip it over and we'll grind the other side do the same. I'm going to bring her down to Sal. And we'll cut back across. Just to be clear here, guys, my goal is to make these two sides parallel. I say parallel, in the same plane in this direction. They will be at an angle. I'm not really that concerned whether the sides are square to the top and the ends are square. What's more important is that the two ends across from the two working surfaces are in the same plane in one direction. Of course, we'll be in a taper in the other direction. So I know some people are going to say, oh, he needs to square that thing up, make sure he's getting a square cut. That's not really necessary in this particular case. Some people would probably do that just as a matter of practice, but I'm just not going to waste the time doing it because it doesn't matter. All right, come down another thou. And now we'll just spark it out. All right, that's good. Now I need to flip this over. All right, let's suck it down. Touch off again. All right, see a little spark there. All right, we're going to just cut across that. All right, come down a thou, come back across. All right, it's cleaned up all the way except to the very end where I purposely didn't cut it all the way down to the top on the milling machine. So we're going to have to go ahead and grind down a little bit farther until we get it to clean up to the end. But we've got a good face on there now. And now we'll just go back and forth a couple of passes and spark it out. And I think I'm going to call that good. All right. So now for a little bit of inspection. To do this, I'm using a taper micrometer. This is set up kind of like a sine bar. You put your item in here. It's got 4 pads. These are flat. This one here you can adjust and get a measurement for how much of a difference this point is from this point. And this is exactly 1 inch apart. So this taper micrometer is made for something thicker. So I'm putting a gauge block in here. And we run it up against where it tightens up there. And I'm going to lower this one down. Let's see here. So we're up 3 lines in here. That's 75 thousandths plus 8. That's 83 and some change. And I go around here and I'm going to read this. Looks like we're right on 5/10 thousandths. So I'm measuring 0.0835 is my measurement there. As far as what we should be, 1 inch divided by 12 inches. So that's 0.0833. We're measuring 0.0835. So we're 2/10 thousandths off per foot or per inch. So that'd be 1,000th per foot, which I think on a 1 inch taper is plenty close enough. So I'm happy with that. And as far as I'm concerned, our taper gauge is within spec. So here we go, guys, our finished taper gauge. I'm happy with how that turned out. I will comment that up here where I had that little bit of just a tarnish or whatever on it, I took some Scotch-Brite, just kind of polished that off. Everything looks good. But this is great. We got our 2 top and bottom surfaces, are really the only 2 surfaces on this thing that matter. But it's ready to go, and we're ready to use it in an upcoming project that you guys will get to see. And with that, that's going to be a wrap, guys. As always, thanks for watching the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thumbs up appreciated, as are comments. And guys, we'll catch you next time around.